welcome back to another episode of It Depends, I Guess podcast. I'm Caroline.
I'm Jackie.
And we have...
DJ.
Yes. Bam, bam. Okay, if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you've been here before, we appreciate you for coming back.
Yes.
This podcast is about our lived experiences and our everyday observations and conversations that we have with each other offline that we're bringing online. So welcome back.
Yes.
And this podcast, today we are debunking black tax. Whoa, lo. Yeah, that's a heavy one.
Yes.
But before we start debunking black tax and everything about black tax, let's hear how your week has been. Your lowlights, highlights.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a highlight or a lowlight or it's both.
Yes.
It's annoyance. Anyway, and this has been trending for a bit already. In Kenya, in Nairobi, there is a public park called Uhuru Park. Uhuru means freedom.
Yes.
Yeah. Uhuru Park has quite the history. And there's a time our previous president, the late President Moi, had wanted to contract it out to a hotel. Was selling it to a hotel or something. Yes. And it got on the, I want to say global platform, because one of our well-known environmentalists, she is now passed, Wangari Maathai, Professor Wangari Maathai, who also got a Nobel Peace Prize for her work in environmentalism and conservation, fought so hard for that park to remain a public park, right? So it became that her protest became a bigger thing and a bigger thing. So that's why I want to say it was covered in global news at some point. But what she fought for, came to fruition. They did not embark on the project or selling it or whatever, and we maintained maintained it as a public park.
Yes.
Now, apparently, there is interest to build a nightclub within the public.
Say that again.
You had me right. A nightclub.
A nightclub. Like, who's come up with this idea? Is it somebody in the county government?
It was announced by the governor.
Oh,
yes.
The Nairobi governor.
Yes.
What's the whole idea about it?
Girl, I don't know.
Okay, we like to party in Nairobi. I can see.
Just said, wow, this is what.
Now, imagine all that Wangari Maathai fought for.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
You guys say politicians don't do enough. Here he's thinking about the population. We need something to entertain the masses. And the nightclub is the way to go.
No, but again, the public park, actually, this is where you find like most people who actually may not have much, actually go to enjoy themselves. There's, I think, some little boats there.
There's
some
boat rides.
Yes. You can just go sleep,
Yeah. Just relax. And it's in the middle of the city. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, also, again, a difference of now living outside of the country.
Yeah.
Because as you said, like at the time where it was known for it's a place where people who are jobless would go to.
Yeah.
Now I know that there's much more being put into making it more like, hey, if you have time, just go relax, etc.
Yeah.
But then it's so weird because here it's the opposite, right? Public parks, if anything, they're creating more parks, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? They really see the value of having public spaces for people, etc. And how do I say, people don't look at you a certain way because you're in the park.
Yeah.
Here, it's different. It's just like, that's a thing you do. You just go chill out.
Yeah.
If it's a beautiful day in between meetings, you just go lay in the sun. Like, it's just, but apparently this is an idea that's been put out there. I hope it's quashed. I hope it doesn't see the light of day, but
because I can tell you for sure that place will not, even if they were to build the club or the pub or whatever, it's not going to be accessible to everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So again, you're taking away something from the public.
To give to a small subset.
Who have the money. So I hope not.
Yeah.
I withdraw my statement.
What was it?
that the government is
the
trying.
government is trying to entertain the masses.
I tried.
No. And it's if you're ever in Nairobi, Uhuru Park is a really nice space to go to.
Yeah.
And also Nairobi is the same place that you have the national park. It's one of the few countries in the world where you have a national park in the city.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's if that sees light of day, that's sad.
Yeah.
It's even sad that's a conversation.
I do see recently they've been having events in Uhuru Park. Especially in December, there's some always artist driven events.
Yeah.
Which are pretty nice. So I hope they keep it that way free and for the public. As Wangari Maathai fought for. Yeah. And rest DJ, any highlights for the week?
Highlights for the week was the lowlights. It's a bit of both, actually.
Yeah.
The greatest president to ever rule a nation, the Donald.
No.
He goes to court and he falls asleep.
Oh, is it?
He fell asleep while they were still coming up with the jury members. Yes. They had the jury members coming over and he had to come and say that, look, I'm not interested in politics that much. I will have a neutral position. I have no position while they were doing all that. The Donald is sleeping.
Snoring.
Yes.
He's human.
If anything, he's entertaining. Is he?
The thing is, he always plays the victim for everything. I hate that narrative
that's
now.
That's part of the charm of him, He plays the victim very well, and he's always lies on every side. He's on every side. You've heard him say everything. You've heard him be for abortion and against abortion.
Yeah.
You've heard him
but he says them all in public spaces, not in private spaces. Public spaces.
Yeah. So he's on both sides of everything.
Yeah.
He's on the side that's going to get him to win.
100%.
Yeah.
I guess you've got to admire the honesty there. It's like at the end of the day, my goal is to win.
I wonder, does he have a strategy or is just loose cannoning things along the way?
It worked for him once. If that formula works for you once, why not do it again?
And
people were willing to go break into the White House for you.
Yeah.
Just think to yourself, the founding fathers, when they sat down together there at that table, they were saying, let's plan this country nicely, okay? The president, obviously, he won't be a criminal. So there's no chance of that ever happening, that the president is ever going to court. So we won't worry about that. Imagine if they are sitting in their tombs or wherever they lie and they are watching this happen now.
Oh,
How many charges does he have? The fact that we're saying one.
I don't know. At this point, I've lost count.
Yeah.
Because every other week it's like, the trial. I'm like, didn't they just finish some trial?
Yeah.
It's like some
but
new trial.
Do you think this favors him in a sort of way?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It vilifies him, and then people want an underdog.
Yeah.
America is built on underdogness. The Rocky, all the great movies.
Yeah.
The underdog always
coming out top. Yeah.
100%.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
It's pulling yourself by the bootstraps.
Am I sounding like a fan? Am I?
No. It's just I was going to say also. I just realized y'all have a new currency, but that's okay.
Oh yes. That's in Zimbabwe.
Is it?
Has a new currency.
I probably should have used that one.
Yeah. Have you condensed the thousands into something?
Not yet. I hear it's doing well so far. I've been watching it all weekend, and it's doing well. The ZiG is the new Zimbabwean currency. Yeah, we've left the Zimbabwe dollar. That's worth nothing anyway. It's not. There's nothing to leave.
Yeah,
the money that it was printed on wasn't worth what it.
Yeah.
We're moving on now, and it's backed by gold.
Gold.
Aha.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've also got the gold coins. You can buy Zimbabwean gold coins. That will be ZiG as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
and you all have gold anyway, so
we have gold.
You can
anyway, so,
back it on.
Yeah. So it's hopefully this goes well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a bold move. Let's see if it works.
Let's see. That's what Gaddafi wanted to do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, to back his
his currency
with gold. Yeah. Has
any country ever done that before?
I thought UAE does. Or
do they?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's my. Sorry, I should have withdrawn the Trump one.
No, both of them.
It's okay. You're a fan. We get it.
Yeah. So my highlight is not a highlight. It's actually a low light. What is with the goddamn spring weather?
I can't even say anything because we literally had 28 degrees.
Yes.
And then
At least
it snowed 3 days
40
later.
hours before. It was
Yeah.
28
Then
degrees.
2 days later it snowed.
It snowed, and today it snowed again. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I cannot take this anymore. Like,
Yep.
we are in April, almost at the end of
May.
the April. May, by now we should
Yeah,
be.
this comes out in May.
I don't have to wear my winter jacket in this time of the year. Like, now I'm going to Fisher to wear to.
Hasn't Ireland taught you anything? Be prepared.
And you know the crazy thing about it? Even my hay fever is confused.
Yes.
I'm like, it's hay fever. Why are you
snowing
feeling-
and
is
there's
it-
pollen at the
and
same
pollen
time.
At the same time.
Yes, yes.
So I'm like, and I've got
man.
a sickness where I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Because my tonsils are painful, and then
Yeah.
I've got a headache, and then I've got a cold. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's hella confusing. I
Yeah.
think one thing about Ireland and its weather is like it's consistently
Consistent.
bad.
Yeah. So that's
At least there's consistency here.
I
There.
wish you
yeah.
come in here and insult you in the comments.
But well, I have friends of mine who say like it never rains in Ireland.
It's consistent.
It's consistent. Yes.
Consistent drizzle.
Okay, now moving on
Are we ready?
to the topic of the week.
Yes.
Let's debunk black tax. Yes.
And it's said African black tax to be
Yes,
specific.
actually, yeah. I think there is specific taxes, American black tax,
American black tax, yeah.
African black
The
tax.
African black tax.
Yes, so we're gonna talk our lived experience of, well, not really lived experience, like our observations
Yes.
of
Yes.
what black tax looks like.
Yes.
Can I let you lead with, first of all, getting us a definition of,
Of black tax.
Of black tax.
All right. So the Googles and everything told me. So black tax is a term that actually originated in South Africa. And it refers to money that black workers, especially professionals and others with higher income, give to their parents, siblings, or other family members out of obligation
Yeah.
or a deeply ingrained sense of family responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, for this specific episode,
Yes.
we are expanding that term.
We are expanding not just the financial part
Just
of
not
that.
the financial part, yes. We want the term to also include the time,
Yes.
psychological support, emotional support, etc. That black people, African black people, are required or obligated to give family members or their community.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start by sort of like going through like why we are having these conversations. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe to kick off is that we, having lived in Europe and coming from Africa, specifically for me, having lived consistently in Kenya.
Yes, for a good chunk of our lives.
Yes. I've seen a comparison of where systems work and systems that are not working too well or actually not working at all from where I'm coming from. And by this, we are talking about systems that are, maybe let's talk about pension. That's a system that, yes, we have pension in Kenya, but here pension works completely different.
Yes. Completely
different. Yes.
I think I was telling you that
Yeah.
it was an interesting experience, like sitting down with this is like normal pension.
Yeah.
Where the lady sat down with me and she's like, all right, okay, so you have here, I think also Switzerland is anyway. There's like 3 pillars. And so I'll talk about Switzerland and Ireland. So here there's 3 pillars. There's pillar 1, pillar 2, then pillar 3 is supplemental.
Yes.
Basically. And people here have been building for their pensions from 20s.
20s, actually.
Get-go. Like once you get into the job sector, immediately they start.
Yeah.
And you're educated from the word go in terms of like, oh, okay, so the retirement age in this country is X.
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? If we say right now rent is, let's say, $100 a month. If you factor in inflation, blah, 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 etc., when you're 60 or 65, whatever retirement age is, inflation changes, blah, blah, rent will be, say, $300 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to be holidaying? Do you like travel? Do you like whatever? They calculate all these things and it's like, okay, so for you to have, you would need X amount per month when you retire.
Yeah.
That adds up to this much per year. And if, let's say, after retirement, maybe the life span here is until, let's say it's 90. I don't know, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So they'll say, okay, we retire at 60, so you'll have 30 years of retirement.
Yeah.
This is how much you need to have saved for you to live your comfortable life.
Yeah.
Right? In Ireland, similar, I guess maybe we were working, there's people who always came and had questions about pension. It was part of your booklet and resources to see what pension is like. And so you can top up your pension because this is how much I need to have by the end of, I started working in Kenya.
Yeah.
I've never had that conversation.
There's a pension system that exists somewhere where your employer is actually giving a certain percentage and you're meant to give a certain percentage, but it never accounts to inflation or where they expect you to be when you actually retire.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also there's also your parents that tell you, that pension.
Yes.
The government one.
Actually, you can barely buy vegetables, actually. That's it.
Yes. So they just tell you, you figure out.
Yeah.
And I assume most corporates have private pension schemes. I assume most. I don't know. Now, also, if we go into the statistics of how many people in Kenya are employed, formally, because a big chunk of the economy is informal employment, which means the likelihood that they have a private pension is not there.
Yeah.
And so they're most likely only on NSSF, which is our national pension, which, as you're saying, you can barely afford.
Just vegetables, probably, and pay your electricity.
Yeah, so let's keep this in mind.
Yeah. So when we have a system like that doesn't work, of course, now that's where we start talking about ways that you actually swoop in to help out, and maybe we'll go further into that. Another thing is healthcare. If I was to compare healthcare here compared to what healthcare looks like in Kenya, first of all, here, what I noticed difference is that the healthcare system, actually, you're obligated as a person to pay for your own healthcare.
Yeah.
So you're paying a certain amount of money per month, and it's an obligation by the government.
By the government, yes. Yeah. And it's only private healthcare. There's no national healthcare system.
There's no national healthcare.
Versus Ireland is the best healthcare is national healthcare system.
Yeah.
It's equivalent. It's almost close to the NHS if you know anything about the UK. Yes. Then where we've come from, at least in Kenya, you have the national healthcare.
The national healthcare, NHIF, yes. And then have the private.
Then private, yes. But you mostly, ideally, the more reliable one is the private healthcare. And that is reliable in quotes.
Because they will only cover you at a certain point of amount of money per year.
Yes.
And I think in Kenya, we don't have this thing about copay, where... No, I haven't seen
I think
that.
I've only seen that here.
Yeah, I've not seen that in Kenya.
Unless you're with a company, if you're working in Kenya and I know this is now people are starting to explore this, but again, this is, not everyone has this option, where they have international healthcare companies cover them in Kenya.
Yeah.
Then there you can now go into the copay conversation.
Yeah.
Yes. But I don't think the local private ones, honestly, I don't know.
From what I've seen, and this is where the big difference comes about healthcare is that, and the burden of healthcare is that when you have a system here where you pay the first initial amount and then the healthcare coverage takes over
Kicks
at
in.
a certain, until whatever. But in Kenya, we do have where you pay, the healthcare system pays for you up to a certain amount, and then you're left with the rest of the bill. So what happens is that you find that the system becomes sort of embarrassed, because imagine if you're covered for up to like 1 million Kenya shillings, and then your bill goes to almost like 5 million.
Yeah.
So you're left with a big dent to actually cover, whereas the big dent is not felt here.
And then now covering that big dent.
Now we cover that big dent in the when we talk about
let's cover
tax.
it.
And then social systems.
Yes.
Do you have something about social systems?
Yes. So, and this is something that's been fascinating as we were researching for this episode, is a lot of things we say are social, like, that's how we are.
Yeah.
And we've always said, I'm one of those people who always said, like, no, in Europe, their social systems don't work so well. We have a good social system, but I now realize as researching, it's that we sometimes have coupled things and things that are actually meant to be a social system run by the authorities, by the government, because in our places have failed, we've taken that in.
Yeah.
And to us, that's our understanding of our social system.
Yeah.
But then here is where you understand things like, oh, okay, something happens to a child's parents. The system steps in and they're like, oh, okay, something has happened here or something is happening at home or whatever. Yeah. The systems kick in and it's like, okay, let's make sure what is happening in this household. Where can we step in? What can we do? Blah, blah, blah. There's all these things that are running such that if, let's say, it's a situation where, let's say, a child loses their parents, let's go something as extreme as that, right? So they're able to come in and be like, oh, okay, all right. So even if a relative says, no, that's my nephew or that's my niece or whatever, I'm going to take that child in. It's not the government is not like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, goodbye.
High five.
Yeah.
Yes, you do that.
Good on you.
No. They have to make sure, like, okay, where do you live? Yeah. They actually have to assess to see, okay, yes, you're their relative.
Yeah.
It's important to have that relational connection. But let's see, is your household stable? Or, okay, maybe you want to be able to step in, but then financially you don't have the... we're not able to. They now start figuring out, okay, how do we chip in so that this person is able to take in this child, but also able to. So such that then life is not greatly impacted by this unexpected situation that has happened. And then in that case, then they also step in and now start figuring out, okay, schooling, this child may need some psychological services because it's a traumatic thing to go through, blah, blah, blah. And they're there in the process until the child is of age, right? Now, for us, it's, that's your relative. Take them on. We're not saying don't do that.
Yeah.
But then there's also a certain part in which the government is meant to step in.
Yeah.
And that is the social system of the government part steps in to make sure, yes, you are taking on this thing. We are acknowledging this thing, taking it on. You hadn't planned for it. It's happened. You're taking it on. How do we help you do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking through about the stark difference of social systems here, and it comes specifically how the government treats you when you are born. When you are, and I've seen this in Western countries a lot, when a child is born, let's say an American, a child is born or a European, they are treated by the government as an individual that belongs as in quotes, to the government. So their welfare is always tracked. Their welfare is well known along the way.
Yes.
Whether even the child is going to school, like the parents, like their welfare is tracked along the way. Now, stark difference with what we have.
Yes.
When a child is born, the child belongs to the community, to the family. Again, the government probably just issues you with a birth certificate and that's it.
Yes.
And you actually, even you going to chase your national ID is even a whole other problem. Let's not even talk about the passport because they don't want to give you that passport.
Yeah. And even the example you've given that the child when they're born in the Western countries, this is we're even talking about a child who's not necessarily legal.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's not just that, they have to be, if they're in Ireland, it's an Irish citizen, like full and full. There's no question. No, this is even if the person who is bearing the child may not have whatever legal status in that country, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
So social systems like set in place like from the word go when you're born. Like if they exist and they are clear, then it's easy for the government to come and step in and be able to make decisions about this person.
Yeah.
Again, if we don't have that, we can now talk about like where black tax comes in. Because at the end of the day, somebody has to take the load if the government is not taking in that part.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think finance, when we talk about finance in terms of black tax, I think this is what people ideally look at black tax is about. Yes, because
it's heavily focused on we're not saying the financial bit is not important.
Yes.
Clearly it is.
It is very important.
Yes. But we just want to, we'll talk about it. Actually, to be fair, we actually want to talk about it, but we also there's a few friends who we want to have on, who we want to have a clear opinion and like just have good, healthy discourse. But wanted to start with, let's talk about the parts that are not usually heavily highlighted. Because there's so much focus on the financial bit. And even I know sometimes people are just like, people who live in diaspora, people have the disposition or like, why do you need to be having this conversation? And we were doing the research and we realized last year in Kenya.
The
money remittances sent home by diasporans was how much?
4.19 billion. This is in 2023.
And in US dollars.
In US
Not
dollars.
Zimbabwean dollars. In
Not
US
Not
dollars.
Zig.
Not
Not
Zig.
Zig.
This
Is
is
it
in
Ziggy
4
or
point, what billion?
4.19 billion.
4.19 billion.
Wow.
Just
That's
for comparison.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
What's the budget for, let's say, a country? Let's say a country like for Zimbabwe.
Oh, what's your national
what's your
I
budget?
think it's about 4 billion.
Really?
Yeah,
No way.
I think
It has
so.
to be more.
It has to be more.
I
Because you're
think
talking
so.
about infrastructure, you're talking about education, health, and all
Yeah.
that. Maybe something we can quickly Google. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not sure. Because I'm thinking if that's what people are sending back,
Yeah.
then the larger piece of the budget
Yes.
is also leaning on what is
Yes.
being sent into the country.
Oh, actually, damn.
Yes. How much?
The 2024 budget has been increased to nearly 7 billion
Where?
in Zim.
In Zim.
From
Oh.
in the last 5 years, it's usually been around 5.5 billion.
I thought so.
Damn.
God
Sir.
damn. Okay.
thought so.
Wait.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Yes.
listen, Kenyans are
And that's what Kenyans are sending home.
Yo.
Mind you, do you know how much Kenya made from tourism
Tourism.
last year? 2 billion.
Oh,
And
double.
tourism is a big earner for the country.
Yeah.
2 billion.
Yeah.
But remittances has doubled that.
remittances. Sorry,
Like
I'm
sending
only but
money
a
home.
humble African.
Sending money home.
Sending
money
money
coming
home.
from
There you
people.
go. Why didn't you say that the first time?
That's
Why
the
didn't you say
official-
that for the first time?
It's official. You're merely but a humble African, right? But yeah, so that's the amount. Mind you, I can safely say, let me just be very conservative.
Yeah.
At least 50% is going towards, there's the ones that are going towards buying property
Yeah.
or investing or whatever. But I can safely, someone can challenge me.
Yeah.
I want to assume like 50% is going towards you're sending to family,
Yeah.
for things, right? At least 2 billion
Yeah.
is going to.
For maybe healthcare, for education. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you, this is
maybe
maybe
just
why
sustenance,
diaspora is heavily invested in this conversation. But it's okay. We'll save that for when we have people we can have healthy discourse with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we're just going to go into the non-directly financial bit.
Yeah.
Might be, but anyway, let's see. Anyway, let's go into
It always trickles in whichever way. But carry on. Yeah, I get what you're
Yeah. I think the conversations about financial bit of black tax is like something like you can easily Google somewhere and there will always be a conversation around it.
Yeah.
There are even books. There's a book written, Black Tax, by Nick something Mlongo from South Africa.
Okay.
And she explores that a lot. They explore that a lot.
Yeah.
And there are also other books about black tax.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so our conversation here, we'll start off with the kind of maybe psychological or emotional support that is put on people. Again,
that we don't think of as.
They don't think about is that. Yeah. Again, let's also like look at black tax from the perspective of it's always gained like a negative wording around it. It always doesn't sound like it's a good thing, but we're not saying it's
Is there ever a good tax? Just curious. Is tax a positive? I should have Googled that. Is tax a positive thing? I mean, it's positive if it's, I think people always see it as a burden.
Yes.
So if, for example, whenever you have to do your taxes, right? Like, oh, it's tax season. Or so I think it's more of, I don't know.
No, okay.
You're not looking at the bigger picture of what tax is. It's only a burden once it doesn't benefit you in any
That's
way.
the point.
100%.
That's true.
If you get
true.
nothing back for the tax that you
That's
put in,
true.
if I get called by a family relative to help with this or help with that, as long as it doesn't even have to be a return in the same amount of money or whatever. Even cheer me up because he knows that I'm going through a difficult period with A, B, and C. You know, that also helps within. But
it's always a one-way.
it's always a one-way thing. It
You don't
feels
feel,
that way.
it feels,
Yeah.
So like any tax system, I think if you're giving taxes or if you're remitting taxes or whatever, if that tax is benefiting you, that's why it's okay you don't feel the pinch of it. But when the system is abused, that's where it gets a bad wording to it.
True.
Yes.
But also, even in countries that function amazingly well, I've never had anyone being like, yay,
okay,
I want to do my taxes.
Okay, I'm saying that because I just got a very big tax bill and no one's crying like, about it.
Taxes, yay. Even the gazillionaires. I was watching some random... in this, as I was researching this, these people make $1 gazillion, so much money, but they spend a lot of money to have accountants who can figure out ways where they don't pay.
Yeah.
Tax avoidance is a whole industry.
Yeah. So do you think, but then in this essence, like the things that we would ordinarily do for maybe our family support and everything, they are normal to us, but the wording that's associated with that, now being black tax, is what is making it sound like it's almost not the right word to use for those things. Yeah.
I think, honestly, I don't think we have... When we're having these conversations, because even when I was looking online, there's a lot of content on black tax.
Yes.
And it's content being done by Africans.
Yeah.
There's also the ones being done by Black Americans, but I was researching mostly for our region.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
But what is interesting is I don't see enough conversation about, okay, what is the root of this thing, right? And I was thinking about, for example, my parents' generation, right? So my parents' generation, let's say they're growing up, whatever, something changes in their system or whatever. And okay, so let's say people used to retire and they get their pension and, you're great, etc. Then something changes and suddenly pension is not something that's viable, right? So then they now start taking care of their parents.
Yeah.
By the time we are being raised, and then you're told, taking care of your parents, that's how we are. That's our culture, right? So we don't know what happened there, that something failed. We have just been told this is a thing we do. So then now we take that on, right? And we're like, all right, okay. So now by the time we are having kids, we're telling our kids, taking care of us and your grandparents, that's what you do. Don't question it, right? But then either something failed in the system and as a group or as a unit or as a people, we are just self-organized. We're like, we don't have time to complain. Let's just figure out how to get along now.
Yeah.
And then we get along, and then over periods, it's just that's part of getting along.
Yeah.
So at no point I'm not seeing enough discourse where we are questioning, like, hey, you guys, this was a thing that we used to do. Why is this thing not working?
Yeah.
Or let's say it's not a thing we used to doing. Because now I think about my parents were born during colonialism, right? So let's say there's things that they didn't really know. But somehow in our evolution and as societies change, at what point do we say, okay, there's a way we can still care for our people, but then we are paying you people, government here, to give us some. Either you don't take our taxes and you're saying you're giving us the job of taking care of ourselves, or if we are paying you, hey,
then do something.
Do something.
Yeah. But and also it's become so ingrained in... It's so hard to find at what point things changed because it's been passed down generation after generation.
Yeah. But there's some, now that you said that, let me just give example. Let's give some examples of black tax, right? So one, there's the financial. This is the big topic. This is supporting where you are your parents for a retirement plan, or you care for your siblings financially. That one is that one you'll find a lot of. That's the one we'll discuss later. But then there's other ones. The other ones now we're talking about. So for example, is like caregiving.
Yeah.
And caregiving, let's even say all the bills are paid. Caregiving is a lot of work, right? For somebody who's really sick.
Yeah.
Or unfortunately in our countries, when things are changing a bit, but if someone is born with a disability, the environment does not foster that you can get the right education or you can get the right you can go to places that you're able to access with your wheelchair, things like that. So you find that a lot of times people, and mostly usually like family members, provide that full-time caregiving, right? So there's things like caregiving.
Yeah.
Then there's things like, this one I found, I was like, yeah, I never thought about this. But indirect physical support. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
You live in Nairobi, for example. Most of your family members live somewhere in, let's say, Kakamega. And they finish school and they're sent to your house.
Yes. Actually, I was thinking about that one at some point. Yes.
Yes, there's that.
Yes.
That is also a form of black tax.
Yes.
Because you're not meant to question.
Yes.
You're not meant to. Why am I even saying Nairobi? If you have a relative who's coming here, they can just be sent.
Yes, to come
or
to.
You have a cousin, Carol, who lives in Zurich.
Yeah.
You just go to her house. There's no point where you need to find your own place.
Yeah.
You go there and stay there.
Yeah.
And because you happen to be older, you can't question like, no. Can this, like, okay, maybe we can have a plan.
Yeah.
They stay for 1 month and then no. That's.
And if you actually stop to sort of suggest other things that don't specifically have to do with you taking care, you become a selfish person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your circumstances might probably not allow for you to be able to host them.
Yeah.
Something else that I thought about, things that we don't think are black tax and they actually really are. And this is an example I have within our family. There is this need for you to go back to your society or to your, let's say you've gotten a good education, you've gone to you've passed high school, yeah? There are already courses that your parents have told you, these are the ones that are more marketable. Forget about whatever you wanted to do, whether you wanted to do something completely different. It's like, oh, you're engineer, doctor, whatever. And then when you go do these courses, sometimes you're pushed to do them because they're like, you will come back to our village or to our area and be the doctor. Because again, you're stepping in where the government cannot provide, So the people actually have this urge to self-organize themselves and sort of have their people go do those things to come help back. Yeah.
And it's as you rightly said, it's also the part where they're taking away your agency for what you even want to do.
Yeah.
Maybe your passion is to be an influencer. I'm not laughing. Maybe your passion is to be whatever. Maybe your passion is whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not even no.
Yeah.
You go be a doctor.
Yes.
And then you can,
And don't even go be a doctor. Okay, you go study for that doctorate or whatever.
Yeah.
And by the time you finish, don't go and be in Machakos where you're coming from.
You come back and be a doctor.
No, you come back here. And even if you are, at the end of the day, make sure that it always comes back to you, your region.
Yeah. Then healthcare, we've talked about healthcare, about where there's that you're filling the gap for something that has failed there.
Yeah.
Education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, something about education that came into mind, and this is when I was just thinking through about this topic, is we have this thing, the Harambe thing. So this is a Swahili word that actually means people coming together. Putting efforts together, and it was popularized by our second president, Moi. Yeah,
yes.
Was it Kenyatta?
You know, Harambe is part of our
coat of arms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wasn't Harambe killed?
Oh my God.
What do you mean?
Sorry.
You mean that by the name of a person?
Harambe, the gorilla or chimpanzee.
The gorilla.
Oh my God.
Probably, yeah.
The silverback. Yeah.
He was named after our Harambe. Yes.
Right.
It's actually called Harambe spirit.
Yes.
The spirit. Yeah.
And it's also it's Ujamaa that Julius Nyerere, who was a leader in Tanzania.
Yes. Ubuntu.
They also had Ujamaa, Ubuntu
in South Africa.
Yeah. These are all terms, again, I get it.
Yes.
There are terms that encapsulate something that we have been, like, very community oriented.
Yeah.
Very much about you're my neighbor, you're my brother.
Yeah.
The spirit of togetherness and, yes, let's pull each other up as we go up.
Yes.
But then I think these things have been misused. Now it's like we're holding each other to pull each other down.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sinking. We are just holding hands
and
we're just going down together.
Yeah. And when I was thinking about the Harambe bit and pulling people up, like back in the days, I don't know whether it happens now, but back in the days, people who used to travel abroad or used to go for education, people would come together, put some money, do a Harambe, help them buy the ticket, pay the school fees and everything. But there was always that expectation that my community has come together, they've put this money, I must give back to the community in whichever way, whether it's hosting somebody who comes, which is okay because but when it becomes obligated out of you, then that's where you start feeling, okay, it is tasking. Yes.
And not just even obligated out of it's also it's very sad because also again there's a perception that once you're there you're okay.
Yes.
Right? People are working hard and struggling, and like cost of living is not nothing, so it's sad to see that someone is trying to build themselves up, right? But then in the process of building yourself up, there's so much tied to you.
Yes.
So it's like you're in this cycle where you don't really move up. You make an extra 20, that 20 has gone. Okay, you back to zero. Let me make an extra 20, it's gone. Okay, you're back to zero. So it's just like, give people a chance to even make it somehow, just something, right?
I've had stories, especially for people who travel for education via Harambe. Usually this kind of, you're traveling maybe to the US, you have an admission to the university, there's always that requirement for the first year. That first year, the Harambe will raise for you. And most of the time, you pay as a private student, a non-country, a non-citizen.
Non-citizen, which is a higher fee.
Ooh, that fee is pretty high.
Yeah.
There's a whole other video we probably will do at some point about this. But what I've seen, and this is where folks have had a really hard time, is that yes, you move to this country. Yes, you have the fees and education for the first year. Then you have no money for the second year. So you start working.
So you drop out.
You drop out of school. You go to work. You're trying to juggle between work, doing odd jobs here and there, just to cover your fees. But now there's also the expectation back home. You're already abroad,
Yeah.
Nobody is saying, oh, we must wait for you 4 years to finish school. No. Even everything small. So you find like even some of the remittances we are talking about coming back, it's probably students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that people are just billionaires out here.
Yes.
It's yeah. And then you find people being like, oh, that child went to the US and it took them 10 years to finish school.
Where do you think it's coming from? Yeah.
All right. Oh, this one is other types of black. I've put funerals and weddings and these things that we...
Culture-wise.
These things that we say it's your culture. No. There are certain things that are... The culture part is the rituals involved.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You have a ritual that involves, all right, you want to marry, yes, okay, this family goes to meet that family, and blah, 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 and it's like, oh, okay, all right, maybe it's a culture or a tribe that has some sort of dowry.
Yeah.
And, and if you, again, we say it's culture, it's tradition. Traditionally, it used to be, I know in my dad's tribe, it was, gourds of beer, maybe a cow or two here, or whatever. Now where this has become... has spiraled out of control, and then we want to have weddings that are multi-million-dollar weddings. I'm not saying don't have the multi-million-dollar wedding.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, you have it.
And then Rihanna.
Yes.
Oh,
you
yes.
have it. If you can have Rihanna come to you.
Pieces have been set,
Yes.
Telling you.
Don't see that people here have flown in Rihanna for it's not even the wedding. It's a pre-wedding activities. And then you think, oh, I've seen that on Instagram. That's what I want to do. Great. You do that. But then now, don't dig into other people's pockets.
Yeah, but you're a family. No, this is what it's tradition.
It's tradition. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Yes.
That's the things that we keep tacking things on as it's tradition.
No,
it's
but
tradition.
It's convenient.
Yeah, it's convenient. Yes. But we need, again, also, as we are the ones with generation who are getting older, I think the things we need to start having these conversations, because then maybe it helps the Gen Alpha, the Gen Zs and whatever, to continue these conversations and also let's at least help write something. Help them know, that thing it's not tradition.
Yeah.
It's not culture. You guys don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We should not be handing things over to them because they were handed over to us. And we're like, no, question it. And it's just like, no, if it's not culture, let's not hand these things over to these kids. Because it keeps spiraling. And then again, anyway, we'll get to the point at who the culprit is.
Yeah, I was going to say like the culture bit, and most of the time when we talk about culture, we are looking at events that happen during like rites of passage, like maybe naming ceremony, weddings. Funerals, like circumcision, that as it happens in some communities. So all these things, usually, especially the financial bits of it, sometimes are blown out of proportion, and people don't go to understand the basis of why this kind of like they don't open up the layers just to understand the basics as to why that exists, rather than the financial or the glorified part of it.
Yeah.
And I think it would have less of a burden, like for example, in one of our Kikuyu tradition, like when you go to tell the father of the daughter of the person you want to marry, you go at a certain time in the morning. It has to be very early, like when you're going to set intention. So in that setting of intention, traditionally, it was meant to be you wake up very early. Just before the family wakes up is when you go in. You only have a cup of tea with them, whatever they have in their home. That's the only thing. That's what you have with them. But now you see that thing has completely changed to almost where now it's a big function. They're coming to set intention. There's a lot that's happening within that. There's money needed, And at the base of it, there was something probably very simple that didn't need to be
overcomplicated.
It was convenient for someone to change it.
Yes.
Because what was happening no one was gaining. It says, this, and the only biggest disadvantage we have as Africans is that we don't document these things. If it's tradition, it's just information that's being passed from John to Jacob.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And between that passing of the information, there could be a distortion of facts, so many. So the fact that we don't document it and nobody knows, now there becomes a blurred line between, is this tradition or this is just something someone said to get advantage.
There is, and this is the time for content creation, and I think we're going to talk about this at some point, is that there is a TikToker I follow. She's called Wairimo somebody on, like my name, Wairimo on TikTok, that talks about certain Kikuyu traditions. And she talks in Kikuyu. She says why things happen a certain way. And sometimes I'm blown out of...
Because you're learning some of this.
I'm learning some of these things. And I'm like, these are the people who actually are documenting, probably in not what we expect. But again, like, we have to use what exists to sort of pass this to maybe our younger folks.
And you talk about some of the cultural stuff in terms of weddings, and it's made me think of, there used to be this I don't know if it's still there, there's a wedding show in Kenya. And, they'd show like, big, mostly it was very opulent weddings and like, how did you meet, blah, blah, blah. And I remember this one episode where they showcased this lady, they were somewhere in kind of a rural area. And I was just like, this is what we mean when we say community.
Yes.
So her and the guy were getting married, and they're like, we are people with humble means. We can just afford to. We'll just go to the church, and then that's the plan. And the community was like, no, let's have a thing because we also want to come celebrate with you. And it was a potluck.
Oh, it was a potluck.
People came with like some people came with like the ugali. Some people someone made the stew, and someone made the blah blah blah. And and they said somebody made the cake.
Yes.
And it was just like, I'm like, that's really good. That's dope. Let's do that. Because they were very clear with the intentions of like, no, we don't have much, but we want to be married. That's what we're going to do. And the community is like, okay, cool. But because we also want to celebrate you, we will come with these things. And I'm like, that's beautiful. And that stuck in my mind because it was and they got so much feedback on that show because it was just so
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, when we say now the spirit of Harambe, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Versus what now it has become, which is just, you know.
So, is it possible to redefine what tradition is? The fact that they made it, can we not rewrite what's comfortable? Because that period was a different period.
Yeah.
What was comfortable then and was comfortable for them.
Yes.
Can we not move in a different light and
we can.
make things work
Yeah.
for what's going on with the population that's alive now?
Yes. And
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, first, with the traditions themselves, I think once you know the value behind that tradition, why things are done a certain way, because it doesn't mean we
Always
have
had an intent.
Yes, they all, because I do say our ancestors were not stupid whenever they came up with all this. Yeah. For every tradition, whether it was in whatever rites of passage it was, there was a reason why things were done a certain way. They benefited the community and in that aspect, and there was value to that. So picking those and actually maintaining the value behind that, we can rewrite tradition in a certain way where we are not taking away completely, but we are maintaining what is important to us. That's the way I view it.
Yeah. That's true. And I also don't think they ever intended, if there's something that made sense then, and then now it's becoming a burden, I don't think the intent was ever to be like, oh, you keep it that way and be a burden. No, I always want to imagine that the ancestors were putting things in place that in their mind, you also know what you know, right?
Yes.
You can focus as much as you want, but you don't know how the world is going to change.
Yeah.
So the things they set in place, that was based on their imagination of imagining, okay, this is what the world might become, but things may have changed so drastically.
Yeah.
I don't imagine that they wanted us to still be stuck with things that maybe are weighing people down.
Yeah.
Like change them accordingly.
Yes.
But the intent, the value, can be similar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And now that you've said that, like, so in general, like, because I feel like the schools of thoughts that have been there around around this have always been either there are people who are in the camp of, oh, this is just count as a blessing that, you can be able to do these things. Just even the concept of black tax, some people is blasphemous. They're like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's our thing. You can't even, we're talking about it badly. We should just be grateful we can do these things. Just don't just be and don't do anything, and talking about it is even like a bad thing.
Yeah.
And the people who are in the camp where it's like, it's annoying, but it's like, let's just do it. And put up or shut up. Like just do it, and it's like, it's annoying, but okay. And the people who are just on the complete opposite side of like just abolish everything and just be
Start
damned.
from scratch.
Just be damned.
Everything. Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there can be. It's not one or the other.
They can coexist.
Yeah.
The thing is, as our podcast says, it depends, I
Truly
guess.
does.
Hey, round of applause.
It depends, I guess. Yes. I think first of all, I still have a problem with the way the wording sort of makes it feel like almost it's not a good thing. Like it almost feels like a burden when you talk about black tax. But they've picked things that are important, especially to our culture, and made them feel almost like a burden. So I would try at some point, maybe hope the wording changes at some point. I don't know.
We're going to rebrand it to black refunds. When you get a refund, you're always like, huh? Don't girl math it. Money I had. No, whenever you get money or find like a surprise 10 shilling note in your phone, you're like, oh, money. Black refund. We're going to rebrand it to the black refund.
Oh, maybe Black Spring. I don't know. Something about growth. Something about, it's not something that's taking away from you, So to the way I view it, my points of view, and probably my school of thought that I kind of mash into two is that I do appreciate where you say it's a privilege sometimes to be able to be in a position where you can maybe self-organize with other people. It doesn't solely lie on you to actually be the one who's doing one and all. And, if you mix that with maybe some sort of, I'm not going to say cultural requirement, because I feel like when you talk about cultural requirement, it sort of almost feels like it's forced on you. I would say pick the value of that cultural thing and see how you can mold it to be of good to you. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
It does. Me, I'm on. I don't know.
Is part of the fear just not wanting to disrespect? Does it feel disrespectful to you to disrespect, not to disregard some of these traditions?
For me, it's guilt.
And taxes.
For me, it's guilt.
Exactly, but the guilt is the same thing, no?
Oh wait, what was the term you used?
Does it not feel? Do you feel you're disrespecting?
Okay. Yes, and it's also the certain things that come with again culture. We'll throw that word around a lot. Is certain things that you feel. I don't know if it's guilt, and I think there's also a fear that comes with it, whereby you don't ever want to. It's like disrespect your elders. And, you have terms like generational curses and things like that. There's also a fear that comes with it, whereby I think a lot of our teachings are such that, if you don't do certain things, actually, this is I found a better way to put it. We have a lot of our cultures, a lot of our traditions are very tied to this whole concept of deserving, whereby if something bad happens to you in life, it's you wronged someone somewhere, right? Our culture is a lot of things now, and mind you, I don't think this is something that we've always had. I think part of this comes from religion impeding into our culture, right? Because when I think about certain religions, there's always a concept of, you need to pray more because this bad thing is happening, right? So I think there's certain things that we don't want to chance. You want to always be in the right to deserve good things. And part of that
is doing good.
And it's always like, if you do good to society, it will come back to you. If you do blah, 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 it come back to you. So there's a lot of that I think also people don't want to, because we want to have a good life. You want to be content and comfortable. So you also don't want to mess. So I think also there's a fear.
Yeah. Which is fair.
And I fully also agree with the guilt part.
Yeah.
Because if you're being told, that's the reason you're here is because of this 200 people, you have no idea.
Yeah.
So when you say, I can't, you feel bad.
Yeah. Even self-imposed guilt, because I see it from this perspective as well. Personally, if I know somebody requires something and I know they can't probably get it and I have it, if I don't extend what I have, I'm guilt-ridden. Like, I feel like I knew they had a problem. I had the potential of helping, whether it's caregiving at whatever level I can, whether it's financial, whether it's psychological, emotional support. If I knew I could help and I didn't step in, guilt will eat at me. So it's also the society imposed and also self-imposed. Yeah. Guilt and fear.
Yeah, I was going to...
As Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from it.
Mental slavery. Is that mental slavery?
It is mental slavery. Because society's your guilt didn't come out of nowhere. Society's guilt you have internalized that guilt.
Yeah, that's true. Because
it's a load of people who have passed away who are still having an impact on your life.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Because sometimes I look at... having lived in Europe for this many years and looking at people I've worked with, colleagues and everything.
Hold on. Wait, carry on.
I know you know where I'm going with this.
Carry on.
Because you can clearly see, like, they don't care about.
No. Not even an inch.
Even to their own family members.
No, 100%.
And there's no guilt at all. And I'm like, how come I have so much self?
And they live to the fullest.
You know what pains me? Let me tell you what pains me. And I won't even name names. It's okay. But you are with people who let's take away generational wealth. Maybe they have people who can give them $1 billion loans. Let's take that away.
Yeah.
You people are in the same cohort or peer group or whatever. So you can assume you're all earning in the same range, plus minus 10%, right? But you can see how they are accumulating wealth.
Oh my gosh.
You can see it.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a
You
stark
see it.
difference. Yeah.
That pains me so much. You can see it. And I'll give you an example of way back. This was living in Ireland.
Yeah.
And this is the time when I was heavily in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as my 20% as a side job. And I remember she's a director, really amazing lady, Irish origin, was lived in the US and come back. And she was like, I really want to do more with the DI in Ireland, etc. And I love that she asked very deep questions. She's like, no. I want to really understand because she's like, I don't want to do the surface things. I think there's things that are deeper than what we see.
Yeah.
I remember she started a group of people and to understand like, so all right. So she was looking at, because she had people in her team. So, you know what people are getting paid. You involved in those things.
Yeah.
But she just wanted to talk to a few people who are not Irish, who are Black African mostly. Because most Blacks in Europe, in the Irish office at the time, are mostly Africans. Yeah. And this is in most tech companies. So it's not specific to any tech company.
Yeah.
And when she talked to a few Black people, and I remember debriefing with her afterwards, and she was like talking about how shocked she was.
Yeah.
Because she was saying, I've talked to so many people and I'm realizing, okay, you've paid your rent. And then you've paid for your mom's healthcare back home. You've paid for something happened somewhere. And she was saying how so many people are living in debt or like at zero. And these are things that her, as somebody who can be in the room to discuss payments and remuneration and salaries, has no clue.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so sometimes people come in and you came in from a different country, so you have no idea about what the pay range is. So maybe you've been underpaid for your peer group. But she was just shocked at how much, and she was just like, how do people build wealth?
Oh, yeah.
How do you people end up building wealth? And I remember looking at her and I'm like, lady, I don't know what to tell you.
That's a conversation.
I don't know what to tell you. People are just on survival mode. But it was too high. It was shocking that most people she was talking to who have families back home or whatever.
Yeah.
And even when she would ask them, how are you building wealth? They were like, what do you mean? Because that's not even something on top of mind.
Yeah.
Top of mind, you're just trying to survive and help people survive.
Yeah.
And that's it. But you're not even thinking of wealth building. Shocked her.
It's probably not something they are privy to, especially in this. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I know there's a big conversation about generational wealth, but if we are not honest about this conversation, we're talking about black tax and looking at it in all its facets.
Yes.
I think it's disingenuous to try and talk about, let's talk about generational wealth. But then there's this other thing that's eating at that. It's not that we're not out here just... Again, we are not collectively mad at the same time. There's reasons why there's certain groups of people who collectively, there's a lot of generational wealth building that's happening.
Yeah.
But this is the reason. And so even as we're having these conversations, as much as people sometimes are like, we are not, in the West, they don't care for their parents and they put them in care homes. Or they don't. It's not that they don't care. People have gone to a point where they also realize time is money.
Yeah.
If I am fully taking care of someone, I can't be out here making money.
Yeah.
So let's find a middle ground. Again, I'm not saying what we're doing is dumb. I do love the fact that spirit of Harambee, the self-organization, has gotten us through so much.
Yeah.
How the hell are we still thriving as a country when the government is giving you... In fact, the government is giving you nothing, and then the little you have, they want to take that too.
Yeah.
We are doing so much. We are clearly very hardworking people.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much more we can do in terms of as much effort as we're putting into covering for the gaps the system is failing in. At what point do we collectively say, okay, folks, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Let's question this government.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe our form of protesting is, hey, government, you said you want 35% taxes. No, us, we're giving you 10% until you start showing us what you're going to do with that.
Yeah. Okay, so is that something that you think we have the power to?
I think at some point we have to have, because I know, and again, I don't know when we had this conversation, and I was talking about how people in government systems are smart. It is very beneficial for them that we are self-organizing.
Yeah.
It
makes their work quite easy.
So much easier. Because over time, you expect less from them.
Yeah.
But they've never decreased your taxes. Have you ever seen an announcement when the government is like,
it's always going up.
We're going to drop this tax down to like 5%.
No.
Because we know we've not given you roads. No. You can have no roads and you'll still pay that 35% of whatever tax it is now. Right? So as it's very convenient for them that these things are not working. And we continue to be like, that gap is there. Okay, let's fill that gap.
We still self-organize and try to come with something.
And how we are filling that gap, I think, is my issue.
Yeah.
And I think also, which is one of the biggest things that has made me I was like, okay, why not turn that into an opportunity?
Oh, yes. Make money out of it.
Why not build industries that fill that gap for the government? Yes, because if people are sending 4.1 billion to Kenya every year, and that number is going to climb.
Yeah.
There's money, right?
Yeah.
So then build industries that help people who maybe in diaspora who are sending this money back home. If part of that money is going into caregiving for healthcare.
Yeah.
Let us build industries that fill that gap.
Yeah.
AI is great and all, but it's not great if we still can't just get good healthcare.
Yeah.
So why not build industries? Maybe when the government sees like, oh, damn, these guys have built some system for, I don't know.
It could be caregiving or something.
Yeah.
Like self-organized caregiving. Yeah.
That is making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Government will want in.
Yeah. Of course, they start, first of all, taxing you.
Yeah. But maybe turn it into opportunities.
Yeah. So something else that comes into mind is some of these opportunities, even money-making opportunities, would be even having systems in place that help people plan from the word go.
Yeah.
Like you can have advisory systems that help you like, okay, look at your situation, your retirement, your family.
Yep.
And I had this conversation with a friend of mine and I was blown away. She's in Kenya. We started working together in Kenya. She told me, after all these years, this is the first time she's hearing things about money market fund. Yep. This is the first time she's hearing things about buying, what are they called? Government bonds. Mm-hmm. There's a big gap. And this is another way of helping people plan their lives early on. Yeah. Like even when you come into the market as a 20-year-old, have financial advisory services that help people plan from way ahead in time. So by the time...
And make it accessible.
Yes.
Don't charge someone 20,000 shillings.
Yes.
As a new graduate, 20,000 shillings is probably what you're making in a few months. So don't come in and be like, maybe we need to build, maybe we'll build a company. It will be called Black Refund.
Actually, yes.
Maybe look out for.
We need to register
giving
that
you the
Black
secrets.
Refund.
Yeah, because clearly there's a space here for
I
being
might
have
to edit that part just in case.
By the time this drops, it will be registered. Yes. But there needs to be just ways to deal with it. So since we're in the takeaways section, we talked about opportunities.
Yeah.
Do you have other takeaways from how do we curb what's happening?
I think one of the takeaways I have, and this is probably me rephrasing something that I had somewhere a while ago, the people who are tasked with black tax, and it also could be, I think this happens in the Asian community as well, so not necessarily people of African descent or Black Americans, is that these are this form of system doesn't grow you forward. It's the only form of system that takes away from you.
Yeah.
Future generations actually never get to benefit. You're taking away from future, actually.
That's true. You're actually taking away from the future generation.
From the future generation.
Because you're not building generational wealth.
You're not building generation. No. You're actually benefiting, I don't want to say backwards, but you're benefiting the past
it's
generation.
Working in reverse.
It's working in reverse.
Yeah.
And we could borrow some leaf from people who don't go through this. Like, I believe they've set plans in place, and I think this is the most important thing. Plan. Simple things, like even like having wills. Having ways to make sure that your future kids actually don't have to battle, things to do with the...
Wills are not a thing for the rich. It's like people assume, I need to have a few million shillings to have a will.
No. It could be even for example, for the 50K in your bank account or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, these are the things that are set in place, like from what I've borrowed, that plan. There's nothing wrong with planning for future.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're taking away from your future generation.
Yeah.
If you fail to plan.
Yeah.
Actually, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
That's true.
Come on.
We are all having up. I need to find a word.
I think my teacher.
My only deep thing is a black refund group. That's the only deep thing I've come
Yeah. So my takeaway is plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tando, you have any takeaways in terms of how do we just deal?
I think, if you are brave enough to not wait for any acknowledgement from the older generation, you just build a way for yourself. Make your own rules. Help where you can. And where you can't, you just say you can't help. And be brave enough to stand with that decision, as difficult as it is. Because you heard my philosophy. This is not a practice run.
Yeah.
This is your life right now.
Yeah.
There's no second. You're not going to come back as a fly and be flying around and say, let me try again. No.
As far as we know.
This is as far as we know.
Unless the fly comes in and it's like, what the fuck?
No.
Yeah.
This is your life here. So we need to start taking charge of your spaces and your well-being as well. Let's say I had an incident where a cousin had asked me for something, and then I said I couldn't provide it. A few months later, I was on the beach somewhere in Africa enjoying life. And then he was like, yo, you could have thrown me that because I see you out on the beach doing this and that. But, in my mind, I'm thinking that's part of my therapy for myself.
Yeah.
I'm working every day. Every day. 5 days a week, sorry. I had to count there. 5 days a week. And 2 days at night as well.
You work days and nights.
And nights, you know. And during that, nobody sees the struggle. But everyone sees you popping and everyone sees you doing this and that. But that's your therapy. If you like to do something, you like to do it for your sanity. To stay alert and stay, this life, you've only got one life. So if you don't enjoy it, you don't want to be 90 and then be thinking to myself, hey, remember that money I sent Auntie so and so, even if I didn't have it, I put it on my credit card, and that credit card bill took me how long to clear?
To pay off. Yeah.
I think, you need to value yourself at some point. Like Snoop came out and I think it was his star. And then he stopped for a second. Then he said, I'd like to thank myself.
Yes. And fast.
Thank
me.
I want to thank me.
That's true.
You are the one who went out there. You are the one who went through difficult situations that only you can see because you went through them.
That's a good point.
I think, you have to take charge at some point.
And I think merging the two things you said, where you're saying, you can give to where you can. If you merge those two things, maybe just say, hey, you know what? Budget that giving. And say, you know what? I make $100 a month, $10, maybe $5 per month will be going to giving. And that you hit your quota, that's it.
You're done,
right? Because I think as I said before, I think there's a middle ground. at no point am I saying or thinking, or we are saying or thinking that throw away this culture thing, just throw baby with the bathwater and just be like, be damned.
Yeah.
No. But I think there's a way we can be able to, again, as a society, we are progressing, right? With the cost of living, with inflation, what we're doing is not sustainable. It really isn't. Even just for individuals, the cost of living, the way it's changing so rapidly, even a lot of individuals are struggling to stay afloat. Now imagine if you have people on your backs, like you have to carry. We just have to find a way to, one, as I was saying, maybe find opportunities where we can be able to fill in these gaps. And maybe our default should not be, oh, there's a failure there. We will fill in the gap as a self-organizing community. Maybe a once off, okay. But then where that becomes, the system is us. We live in places where people are the system, right? Versus where we've come from. Versus in places where it's developing, systems are just irrespective of the people, right? And if we're saying that, yes, we are a community-oriented society, we can find a middle ground for those things, but it just doesn't have to be every single time some failure is coming in. It's just, we are like, oh, okay, that's happened. Let's just, we'll take that on too, and let's take this on too.
Yeah.
No, I think, one, let's use our we are starting to see our voices matter in our home countries. Let's start pushing those towards changing things sustainably, that, as you're saying, helps the future, right? And even, again, back to what you've both said, as you're saying, in terms of prioritizing yourself is also a way of helping the future children, the future generations.
That's true.
Right?
100%.
So when people are saying, oh, I'm prioritizing myself, it's not an end of its on its own. It's not that, oh, this is it. No, you're doing that, and when your generations come in, you're passing on things that they can be able to take on and be able to build onto that, right? So I think the spirit of Ubuntuism, Harambeism, Mujamaism, there's a whole bunch that probably all mean the same things, are beautiful things. But then let's maintain their beauty, because what's happening is we're taking on so much that some of those terms have an ugliness to it. And I don't think that was the intent, right? So I think let's keep the beauty of what we have, but then let's change with how things are changing. The world is changing. We also have to be pragmatic. We are not in some idealistic situation. So I think
great takeaway.
Also, like even my cousin in Zimbabwe hit me, and this call, or you've always got someone who hits you when there's a problem. So I was like, we sorted out that problem. I sent him what he needed to have. And then I told him, the next call, let's make it about something about bringing wealth. To not just you, but to everyone. Come with an idea or something. And then we can build from there. Either financially, I can support, or even idea-wise, I can bring something to the table. But let's not make every call about,
Anyhow.
you start reading those calls.
You know what I mean? And you don't want to be like that. Let's make it about, hey, let's I've got this idea, But that's what they're doing on the other side. The Chinese, the Indians.
That's true.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
it's just...
and also, like, in terms of probably another takeaway is that even when you talk about black tax, don't forget emotionally we are tasked to carry, especially women, to carry
I was just
a lot
about
of
to say
emotional
that
labor.
Gender, and I think sometimes there's also this wars online. Sorry, finish.
Yes, the emotional labor itself, where everybody comes to you when they have a problem. You're the problem solver. It's not even it's not even financial. Sometimes you're the one with the ideas, with the solutions, with the way to help and everything. And you become somebody who takes in all other people's problems. That's another form of black tax, as we call it, when you have the emotional support. And again, you have places where you can call out and be like, okay, also come to me when you have something to celebrate. Let's also not always be
100%.
Yes.
I was going to add to that, like I was doing the research, and disproportionately, when it comes to who's bearing a lot of the weight financially, a lot of financial black tax falls on a lot of men. And then the time, like caregiving or the emotional, all that, a lot of that falls on women and single women.
Oh, single women.
Yes.
Oh, this might be another episode.
So let's just leave it at that. Let's leave it at that.
This might be another full episode.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely, as usual, give us your comments. I'm sure we didn't cover all this. Probably things of black tax that we've not thought about.
Yeah.
But
would love to hear them.
Yeah. And again, a lot of my opinions and perspectives are heavily East African.
Yeah.
So
In the
it's
comments
probably
below,
different.
let's discuss it.
Let's have healthy discourse. Yes. Yes.
And thanks for tuning in.
Yes, we'll have another one where let's talk about the money.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think that went
We
well.
have another trivia. Now we have in different t-shirts.